Hi, this is Marsha.
And this is Kelly.
We are the 2U's of 2U's Fiber Adventures. Thanks for stopping by.
You'll hear about knitting, spinning, dyeing, crocheting, and just about anything else we can think of as a way to play with string.
We blog and post show notes at 2usfiberadventures.com.
And we invite you to join our 2U's Fiber Adventures group on Ravelry. I'm 100 Projects.
And I am Better in Motion.
We're both on Instagram and Ravelry, and we look forward to meeting you there.
Enjoy the episode. Good morning, Kelly.
Good morning, Marsha.
How are you today?
I'm doing really well. We just got back from a midweek camping trip.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah, it was kind of a luxury. I'm trying to take advantage of the positive things of the pandemic and working from home. Mm-hmm. And so we actually had the day off. Wednesday was a holiday. So we took an extra day on either side and we're able to meet with my mom and Dennis and, do some visiting outside. I have pictures of us sitting, some neighbors of theirs came up to visit also, and I have pictures of us sitting in the campground, and we're all so far apart. We're like Robert and I, and then about 15 feet away are my mom and Dennis, and then about 15 feet away from them are Tammy and Mike, their neighbors who came up to visit. And so, but it was fun. We had a really nice time, and the weather was good. It rained yesterday after we got home, so we didn't have to contend with rain. It was cold, but sunny on a couple of days, so that was good. And we had lots of wood for campfires, and so it was really perfect. I was able to, load up my students' website with the stuff they needed for class and schedule a few announcements to come out while I was gone and get away.
Nice.
Yeah, it was fun.
I have gardeners out here, which I was not expecting them to show up today. And there's weed whackers, the sound. Okay. I don't know if you can hear all of that in the back.
But I might be able to hear it on your track when you send it. But
it to me, it feels like it's really loud, but I don't know. As I say, yes, I was not expecting them to show up today. And the day we decided to record, they decided to show up. So anyway. Yes. I know. Well, anyway, I'm glad the camping trip was nice. It's nice to get little getaways.
Yeah, it was fun, and there weren't very many people there. I thought there would be more since it is it was a holiday on Wednesday, but they were filling up when we left on Friday. They were filling up for this weekend. So I guess some people maybe had a long weekend instead of a Wednesday in the middle of the week off for Veterans Day. So. Yeah, it was pretty nice way to visit. I think we're definitely going to do that again. We have reservations for December, not Christmas, but right before Christmas. And I've sent out the word to all the family to, come by for, just for the day, or come and get a campsite and camp with us. So I think one of my nieces is going to get a campsite. Weather is a little more iffy in December in terms of rain, but we've got 2 pop-up tents that we can set up so we can, keep people under shelter and yet still be socially distanced.
So, and let me ask you too, because we have Thanksgiving coming up in a few weeks, and I know Thanksgiving is your holiday.
Yeah,
you're not. Are you doing Thanksgiving? I mean, because you're telling everybody not to do.
No one's
not
coming. Okay. No, I've canceled the family Thanksgiving. Extended family Thanksgiving. So no one's coming for Thanksgiving. In fact, that was when I sent out the message about the camping was, since we're not doing Thanksgiving and we're not having the Christmas Eve party, if you can come for this, if you want to visit, we can visit outside at the campground. So yeah, I do want to get out my Thanksgiving dishes. I think usually I get them out just for Thanksgiving. We don't use them all month. Like the Christmas dishes I get out for, the whole season. Right after Thanksgiving, I get them out and put them back sometime in January. But this year, I think I'm going to maybe I'll do it this weekend, get the Thanksgiving dishes out and just use them all month. Just remind myself to be thankful.
Yeah.
of, the things that we do have to be thankful for. So we'll probably, we'll have a turkey and we'll have stuffing and all that, but it will just be the three of us.
Okay. I'm sorry. This is terrible podcasting. I'm listening, but I have those cameras, the security cameras. And it alerts me on the phone when there's activity, but because the gardeners are out there, I don't know if you can hear it, but it says I'm getting every second I'm getting an alert, so I'm muting it.
Okay.
There we go. Sorry. This is terrible podcasting. Okay.
Oh, well. Again, life.
I know. Anyway. So, should we talk about projects?
Sure.
Who wants to go first? I'm sorry. I'm so distracted by this noise. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, why don't you?
Maybe if I talk, then
I'm interested to hear how your sweater is going.
Okay, well, it's not.
Oh.
That's what I was going to say is I've not even picked it up, which is really bad because you know how when you are working on a project and you set it down for any length of time, it's really hard to get back going on it again. And so I'm in that situation. In fact, I haven't even the new skein of yarn that I ordered is here. It's been here for a while. I've not even wound it into a cake yet. So
it's funny how you lose momentum.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's like some kind of psychology behind that losing of momentum.
Yeah. I am going to pick it back up. I just don't know when.
Yeah. Well, at least it wasn't that you set it aside because you had a mistake.
Right.
Because that can be bad when you set it aside and you think you're going to remember what that mistake was or what it was you were doing that you needed to fix. And then you set it aside. And then when you pick it back up or while it's being set aside, that problem grows. This is from my experience. When it's set aside, that problem that you were having grows into something insurmountable, so then it sits even longer. And then by the time you do get back to it, you don't quite remember where you are or what happened, what you need to do.
Yeah, you don't even remember
it.
what the problem was. Yeah.
So at least you stopped. The only reason you stopped was because you needed more yarn.
Right. Yeah. I'll wind more yarn and I'll get back at it.
How's the match of the yarn color?
Well, it's so I think I originally had. Now I never remember now how many. I think I originally had 3 skeins, and it was not quite enough for a sweater, so I bought a 4th skein. And that one was a different dye lot, and that's the one that didn't match perfectly. So I just, alternated rows. This 5th skein that arrived, I can't believe I'm using 5 skeins, but this 5th skein that arrived is the same dye lot as that extra one that I bought.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think what I'm going to do is I'll just do this. So it's slightly different, but different enough that I need to alternate skeins. And I think the pattern design has, like on the sleeves, it's the body, it's stockinette, but I can't remember now, every so many number of rows, it has a row of garter stitch.
Yeah, it has those ridges.
Or a pearl stitch, I should
like
say.
A pearl ridge.
A pearl ridge. And the same thing on the sleeves. And so I think that it's not going to be really noticeable if that change happens where those rib stitches are.
Yeah.
The pearls, it will not be as obvious because there'll just be a change in the pattern too.
You might experiment with, if you do it like one row, like the stockinette row right before the pearl stitch, like if that's where you make the change. Where did I know. It was my Orca's Run sweater. So it has stripes in the ribbing on the sleeves and on the bottom band. And what they had you do when you shifted color was do so that you didn't get the pearl part of the ribbing. When you shift colors, you can see that color shift. And so they had you do an all knit row when you changed color. I think it was when you changed color. You did an all knit round in your ribbing. It doesn't show up in the end. That row that was knits instead of pearls in the ribbing part means that you don't have those. You can't see where those 2 different colors interlocked.
Right.
But you also can't see that you don't have pearl stitches in that part of the ribbing. So anyway, it was an interesting thing for me to learn about changing color. This was a dramatic color change because it was stripes. But it was an interesting thing about changing colors with purl stitches, that you actually want to change the color in a knit row right before the purl stitches, is I think how it went.
It's very, I mean, I think if you look really closely, you can see that there's a difference, but it's so subtle.
Yeah.
But still, I think if I did not alternate skeins at the beginning, like when I'm doing that change, I think it would be, you'd see a definite line. But I'll experiment. And I think, honestly, that's kind of what's stopping me, because I have to do a little experimenting. It's not like I could just start knitting away. I have to do a little futzing around. So, anyway.
I know the feeling.
Yeah. But in the meantime, I've been working on the socks. Remember 2 weeks ago, I finished the first sock?
Oh, yeah.
Of this, was it Tilli Tomas? Yeah, Tilli Tomas Artisan Sock in the Coconut Grove, which is this weird red and aqua and forest green color combination. So I'm knitting on the second one, and I just measured it, and I've done about 5.5 inches of maybe close to 6 inches, I think, of the leg part of the sock. So I'm just sitting and knitting on this right now. So I've been working on that. And then, do you remember in the last episode, I was talking about my spirit yarn and how I was like, I think I'm going to return it to the universe. Well, I suddenly went down there and I got inspired.
Oh, cool.
And so I think I'm going to keep my spirit yarn.
It wasn't ready to go to the universe.
No, it's not ready to go to the universe. I pulled out some colors that, and they work perfectly for, oops, I just stabbed myself with my needle.
Ouch.
Oh my God. Oh my gosh, that hurt. I have a book called Tea Cozies 3 by, I think it is Sian Brown, Alison, Howard, and Vanessa Mooncie. And I bought this years ago. Anyway, I've made I'm working on 2 tea cozies. The first one is just called Pineapple, and it looks like a pineapple. And I found the perfect colors for it. And so I've knit the whole, I've knit all the parts. Now I just need to sew it together. And so it's really cute. The pineapple part is made out of it's knitted, but it took me a long time to figure out how to do the stitch. It did not make sense in the pattern. And this is the beauty of Ravelry, is I found other people who had made the pattern, and they actually said that it's called the anemone bauble. So I was able to look that up on YouTube and see how to make it. So
it's cute. I'm looking at the pattern page right now. That is a darling tea cozy.
No, isn't it cute? And so that one is, as I say, all the parts are done. I just have to sew it together. I'm going to try and do that today. And then I started a second one because I had great colors, and it's called Devon Violets. And it's, are you looking at that one?
Yeah. Well, I first went to go look at the book, and it's the one on the cover of the book. But the picture on the cover of the book is not that good. But the picture on the pattern page is darling.
So that one, I would say the body of the tea cozy, the part that's actually going to keep the pot warm, is garter stitch in kind of a moss green, kind of. And then you knit leaves of the violets. These, and I think I have to do 6 leaves, and I've got 3 done. Of course, I made a mistake on the 4th one, wasn't paying attention, and so I have to rip out the 4th one and start over again. But they go pretty quickly. I did 3 of them in one night. So
that's cool.
And then you crochet the flowers, the purple flowers. And I found in my stash, perfect colors for both tea cozies.
Oh, that's nice. So the beauty of a stash.
I know. So it's really, I'm inspired by my stash, and I'm going to keep it because it's like having, it's like an artist palette, like you can just go find the colors. And some of the cozies are all, they're for worsted weight yarn, but they're not using worsted weight yarn. They're just holding, I believe it was 2 strands of DK equals worsted weight.
Oh,
I believe. And so that's what and so some of the yarn I used, so like, for example, on the pineapple tea cozy, it was supposed to be 2 strands of DK. I didn't have that. So I just used, I had a skein of yellow Cascade 220, which is worsted weight.
Oh, yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, so I used that. then like the tea cozy, the primrose one, I don't have worsted weight yarn. Well, I take that back. The leaves are worsted weight, but the body is, I had 2 strands of DK and then kind of the moss green. So it's kind of a nice, you can, as long as you can combine yarns to equal worsted weight, it works, you know? Mm-hmm. So but it's nice having that stash just to go be able to pull out colors and use up stuff. So anyway, that's been fun working on those.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds fun. Then when you finish those, you can move on to that carousel sheep one.
Yes. Oh, thanks, Kelly.
Just kidding.
I know. Well, okay, if we're going to play that game, then you can move on to the Sunny Bono jacket.
I know. Sarah in the Ravelry group has reminded me of the Sunny Bono jacket a couple of times. So yes, you're right about that.
Well, and also I also have to finish my rabbit. I have to finish my skull. And I thought I had another project.
You have a shawl that's almost done, like you're on the bind off or something?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Well, we did start off by talking about projects that get stalled and why do they get stalled and what's the psychology behind not going back to them. You know, sometimes something's just not calling to you, and the tea cozies look really cute. We're not any of us blameless.
Yeah. But I have to say, I really sort of recommend tea cozies. I don't know. I use a tea cozy because usually when I make tea, I make a pot of tea. So I do use a tea cozy. What I like about tea cozies is that they seem like they're not serious. They are supposed to be whimsical.
Yeah. Yeah.
And cheeky and funny. You know, you can make serious ones, you know, but they usually are, because as I say, they're supposed to be kind of whimsical and bright and fun. And so they're usually bright colors and they go pretty quickly. They're like a hat, you know, really just, that's basically what they are, is a hat with 2 holes in them, you know, for the spout and the handle. So, kind of fun. Yeah. Anyway, that's it for me with projects. There's things, of course, I'm thinking of casting on, but yeah. Well, and the one thing I'm supposed to cast on is my brother wants a sweater that remember we bought that yarn. He bought the yarn for me to make him a sweater, and he keeps asking me about it. But again, when people put pressure on you to cast on things for them, it's sort of, I lose my, I don't know. That's another interesting discussion about when people are kind of, I don't want to say forcing, asking. I'm less inclined to cast on.
I've heard people talk about obligation knitting and how once it becomes obligation knitting, then it's not as enjoyable, and you start to have resistance about even wanting to work on it. Yeah.
This is not really project related, but I'm just going to make a comment. I was cleaning up, and I have all my knitwear in boxes. Those boxes that slide under the bed. And as I would, they were all kind of jumbled up, like hats and scarves and sweaters are all kind of mixed up. And so I reorganized. So sweaters are in separate from, and then scarves or hats in their own box. And I was like, oh, I'd forgotten I'd made that sweater. So I sort of made a commitment through the winter is to wear a different sweater every day.
Oh, that's
because
cool.
I have all these sweaters, so I should start wearing them. And so today I'm wearing, do you remember my first combo spin sweater that I made where I dyed the roving and then and it's all really like hot, bright colors? I'm wearing that one today.
Oh, nice. Is that the one you brought to Scotland and wore every day? But
no,
that was
your
second one, right?
The second one, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. Yeah. That's a good
this
idea.
One is what we would call rustic. But I like it.
It would be a good camping sweater. Thinking about what you were going to do to wear things, wear the sweaters you have. I brought with me to camp in the sweater that I got on the D-stash table at Knockers. It was made by Celia.
Oh, right, yeah.
And you tried it, and you wanted it, but you thought it would fit me better. So I have that one, and I wore it camping, and it was perfect. Yeah. And then the other thing that was really good camping was my Ripple bralette.
Oh,
It was nice and warm. I have to say, I'm going to make another one. It doesn't really itch. There've been a couple of days where I've put it on and I thought, this feels a little bit itchy. Concentrate on something else. And then that feeling kind of went away. So I think it's kind of in my head, that the fact that it might be itchy is kind of in my head. I am going to lengthen the straps a little bit. Mm-hmm. The straps seemed too long for what was in the pattern seemed way too long. And so I shortened them up. And I think I mentioned this before. I shortened them up a little bit too much. So I need to add maybe 3 to 4 rounds. So I think I'm just going to do a little strap surgery and increase the length of the straps, and that will help a little bit. But yeah, that was two really great things to bring camping in cold weather was that sweater. And it's mosaic knitting. So it's more than one layer.
Yeah.
And so that was really nice. I did not bring my Orca's Run sweater, which is also a perfect camping sweater because I need to replace the zipper. I had not been able to find the right size of zipper, so I cut off a zipper. And, I thought, okay, I need to be really careful. I'd bound the top of it. I need to be really careful that I don't just zip it up and zip the thing right off. And that is what happened. It lasted for, I don't know, I think I had the zipper in for about a year before the binding that I had done at the top to keep the zipper pull from sliding right off came off. So I didn't bring that one because the zipper needs to be replaced. And then I also brought my descent cowl that I made. And that was really great because it also worked as a mask. So, because it's so thick, it's the mosaic knitting, so it's not just one layer. It felt like it made a good mask. So when I would go go somewhere and I saw someone coming on the trail or something, I could just pull that up over my face to be a mask.
Nice.
So yeah, and I think I'm going to I have a little bit of the navy blue yarn left. And then I have a lot of the contrast color, the kind of a blue-gray variegated. So I'm going to make a hat. I think there is a hat pattern, a descent hat pattern. I'm not going to make that. I'm just going to make a regular hat and maybe do something that takes those colors, takes both yarns and mostly the gray because that's what I have the most of, the contrast color. And then a little bit of the blue to tie them together, but not have them be like exactly matching. Oh, and I wore my paving mitts.
And socks? Did you have
I had hand-knit
on?
socks on too, so yeah.
You have to knit some underpants now.
No. But it was really a good way to wear knitwear. And, not all of my knitwear would go camping, right? There's a lot of things that I wouldn't want to have out there, but it's nice to have those things that you can just wear for work or play that aren't special, so special or precious that you like, oh, I couldn't wear that there, So speaking of rustic, I had my rustic knits at the camping. So do you have anything else going on, or is that the end of your projects?
Oh, that's all I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
and how about you?
Well, right now I'm knitting on another charity hat. I finished the solid blue one that I was working with, the kind of waffly stitch, slip stitch, puffy stitch that I was working on last time. I've started a new one that is a kind of a cobalt blue. In fact, it's the same cobalt blue that I used for my paving mitts. And it's mixed with, it looks like it's a printed yarn. But it's not a self-striping or a self-patterning. But when I look at the yarn, it looks kind of like the color was dabbed on. It's both of them are 50 grams balls of drops fauble. Oh, it's actually called spray print. So it is printed on. But it's a purple and gray yarn. And then I have it with the cobalt blue. And I'm just holding them together. So I'm getting kind of a marled effect, which is what I've been mostly doing for these charity hats. There's a few of them that are worsted weight, but most of them have been two fingering weights held together. Because I'm just trying to, use up things that I don't think I'm going to use up leftovers. And I have already a pair of short socks with this purple. When I bought it, I bought 2 because I was thinking I would make, 2 regular pairs of socks, but I ended up making a pair of short socks out of it. So then I had the extra ball. So I'm using up that extra ball. And then the cobalt blue, same thing. I had bought 2 balls of it to make a pair of regular socks. And instead I used it for those paving mitts. So I had the extra ball. So I'm using those 2 extra balls to make a hat. It's maybe not the most inspired color combination that I've ever used, but it works. So there's a cobalt blue and a kind of a gray purple. Okay. So I'm working on that right now. While we were camping, I started it during the camping trip and finished it. I was trying to finish it. I was thinking I would finish it while we were there and give it to my mom, but I actually didn't finish it until we were on our way home. So I'll have to put it in the mail and send it to her. But I have a dishcloth pattern that I like to use, and I got it it was actually a dish towel pattern from Pearl Soho, and I'll put the link to it in the show notes. But it's basically I've taken that stitch pattern and made it into a dish cloth instead of a dish towel. And so it's again a slip stitch pattern using 3 colors. And I really like how the 3 colors play together. It's almost like a houndstooth when you get finished with it because of all the slipping of stitches. And then also because of the slip stitches, it's a nice thick dishcloth. And then I think the first ones I made, I used a size 5 needle. And then when I was getting ready to go on the trip, instead of just grabbing those needles that I usually use, which are straight needles, I looked on the pattern to see what size they call for. And it called for size 3s. So I'm not sure why I was using size 5s before, but it worked. I probably did what I do where I stick the yarn through double the yarn and stick it through the hole of the stitch gauge or the needle gauge.
Oh, right.
And so if it goes through, not too loose and not too tight, that's a good size of needle. That's kind of a guide that I use because it's very possible that the Pearl Soho pattern uses a different yarn than what I use for my dishcloths. So anyway, normally I was using a size 5. The pattern, when I looked at it, called for a size 3, and it was like, oh, good, these are already size 3s are already in my bag. So I didn't go grab the ones I usually use. And then I also had some things that I brought along to finish up. I had some Kitchenerring to do. And so I had size 1 needles in my bag. So I made the dishcloth with size 1 needles. I couldn't figure out why it seemed like it was going so slowly.
Well, and it's very dense, right?
Right. So it was hard to knit with, except the needles were really slippery, so that helped. But it was hard to knit with because it was so dense. It took longer because the rows were shorter. It's like this dishcloth took a long time. So I don't know that I will do another one of these dishcloths with a size 1 needle or not.
Yeah.
I'm going to wash it and see what it, once I've washed it, what it looks like, because I might really like it. It might be super thick and dense and sturdy. But yeah, it was like, okay, why did I use a size 1? I mean, I just assumed they were the size 3s. I just grabbed them and started, and then all of a sudden I realized, wait, these are not the right needles. But it turned out really good, and I'm using, again, old stash. I bought this at Fiber Gallery.
Oh, right, yeah.
Brown, gold, and black. And then I also have a cobalt blue that I did not use. Anyway, I got on a dishcloth kick, and I probably will finish up all this yarn and make all the rest of the dishcloths in the different color combinations. So that's my other camping knitting. And then I brought my pullover to camping to work on, but I never took it out of the bag except to show my mom. I didn't do anything. And this is another one of those things. I have a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to rip all of it out. That makes it sound more ominous than it is. I have to rip back about 10 rows. I've got somewhere I put in a yarn over. I don't know how or why. And then not only do I have a yarn over hole, but it made my little dots, my dot pattern, get kind of off.
Oh, yeah. It threw it off.
Because they're supposed to be every other stitch, and it wasn't. So anyway, I have to rip out about 10 rows and then get back to going on it. But it's going pretty well. I made a lot of progress on it. I'm about maybe 12 inches down from the underarm. And I'm not really sure the pattern. Oh, now I can hear your noise in the background.
I know. It's so loud. I was like, it's hard for me to concentrate, and it's hard for me to even talk. It's so loud. Hopefully you can do something about this, Kelly.
I'll be able to work it out. For the most part, I'll be able to work it out. But this is the first time I've heard it in the whole, our whole conversation.
Okay, well that's good that it's the first time you've heard it, because to me it seems really, really loud. I mean, now I can barely hear you. It's so loud at this end.
Oh no. So anyway, the sweater. I have to go back and look at the pattern. I'm a little bit perplexed because it says, now I don't have it with me, so I can't say exactly how it is, but it's something like this. It says to knit knit until the body measures 15 inches. And I think that means 15 inches from the underarm, right? Because after you join, then it says knit stockinette for 15 inches. I'm making that up. That might not be exactly the number of inches because I don't have it with me. But then when I go and I look on the schematic for my size, it's like 13 inches or something like that, right? They don't match up. And remember how I was talking about the armholes? They said to go for 6.5 inches, which I didn't do because that's too small. When I go to the schematic, the armhole for my size is 8 inches deep.
Oh.
So there's something weird, and I don't know if it's something I'm not understanding.
Well,
and it might be just the way it blocked. I don't know. But the dimensions on the schematic are not the same as the dimensions on the pattern. Well,
the other thing I don't know about writing patterns, but I have heard that, the designer will knit the sweater in one size, and then it's a mathematical formula to figure out the other sizes. And that's why people then do test knits, right? And I don't know if that's true, but that's what I heard. And is it possible maybe that the math was wrong? So that's why it doesn't match the schematic?
I guess it's possible. Yeah.
But it seems like these patterns are tested.
Right.
I mean,
and this particular pattern has been made 206 times.
Oh, yeah. So then someone would have...
It seems like, it seems like someone would have...
So it's not... I don't think it's the pattern, Kelly.
No, I think there's something that I'm not understanding. And it may also have to do with, it's quite drapey. The idea of the sweater is quite drapey. And it may be that once you've knit it, then when it has all of the weight on it, that's what makes the finished garment different from the inches that you've knit. I don't know. I'm going to have to go back and look at that a little bit more. It doesn't matter because I'm doing... I'm going the number of inches that I want. Like I know what length I want, comparing it to another sweater I have that I like. I'm not looking at, the pattern says to go this far from the underarm. I'm not doing that. I'm going as far as I need to go to get the length I want for this particular sweater. So, that's fine, but it's kind of interesting. And I'm just noticing in this pattern, Trin Anelli, what? She was a designer of some other thing that I made. Is that the Summer Fjord?
I think so, because I didn't know that, because I made it too. Let's see, Summer Fjord.
I think it is the Summer Fjord. Anyway,
Yes,
one of the...
It is. I just looked at it.
Okay, so one of the pictures on the pattern page is the Rachel sweater that she made, which is really cute. So, other pattern designers have made this sweater. So I'm not thinking it's a mistake, but it was interesting to me when I looked at the schematic and I saw the different, then I went back to the pattern. I was like, wait, that isn't the number of inches that they said. But anyway, it's coming along. I will finish it. It's not really stalled in a bad way. It is true I have a mistake that I have to rip out, but ripping it out while I was camping just wasn't one of the things I wanted to work on. And I brought, as you do, right? I brought lots of things to work on. So I also have a new shiny project that I haven't started yet, but I did buy the yarn for. My niece, Sarah, and her daughter, Faye, were at, this was quite a while back. I don't know if they were at a garage sale or flea market or someplace, but Sarah took a picture of a blanket, like an Afghan, that was all these doily flowers, or like doilies put together. And Faye said it looked like flowers. And so she posted it on Instagram. I've since looked for the picture, and of course you can't find it because Instagram is chronological, and I'm not interested in going back that far. Through my niece's prolific Instagram, it would take way too long. I thought maybe I had taken a screenshot of it, because when she posted it with, oh, well, I think we have some people in the family who know how to crochet, haha. And I maybe I would have taken a picture of it, a screenshot, but I didn't find it. So I guess I did not. But when I saw it, I thought, oh, that'd be so fun to make, because I like that kind of crocheting. And so then I thought, well, I wonder if I could find a pattern that was already, not like just random doilies and then you have to figure out how to put them together, because I don't have the skill for that in crochet. And I'm not sure I have the interest either to make a blanket for my grandniece who's 5. So I started looking at Ravelry patterns, and I looked for a while and I didn't find anything. And I put different things into the search, and didn't find anything. And then one of my favorite things to do, which I hadn't done in a really long time, is sit and watch the Ravelry FO radar go by.
Oh, right.
While I'm knitting and listening to a podcast, and then I have the pictures going by. And this one blanket went by and is like, there it is. There's a random flower. It's not exactly doilies, but it's like random flowers.
Okay.
Flower shapes. And so I clicked on it and I found the pattern, and then I went to the pattern page, and the pattern is very symmetrical and orderly. Like every square is the same. It's all the same colors, and you put all the squares together and you get this Afghan that's a bunch of squares that have a flower a big flower in the middle. But the project, she did it differently. She didn't use the same colors in every square. So like in some of them, the center part is dark and then the rest of it is light. And so it looks like a small flower. In some of them, she used a darker, brighter color for many of the rounds, and then only used the lighter color for just the final part of the square. And so it looks like a big flower in the square. And then when you put them all together, it looks really random as compared with the actual pattern. Very dramatic, the difference in these two projects.
What's the name of the pattern?
Let's take a break. So Marsha, while you took a break, I actually went and put the links in the show notes so you can take a look at the pattern. It's called Persian, I've spelled it wrong, Persian Tile Blanket. And then I also linked, so that's not what attracted me. The actual pattern page is not what I saw. What I saw was the project, Genosaurus Wake has this Persian tile blanket. And so the thing I love about Ravelry, I've talked about this before, when you're looking at a pattern and you look at people's projects, if you favorite a project and you put the pattern in your queue, when you go to you don't even have to put the pattern in the queue. If you favorite a project, then every time you go to the pattern page, that project you favorited will be showing there. So you can always remember, you can always find the pattern, the project that you liked from that pattern.
Oh, okay.
So I saw this Genosaurus Wakes Persian tile blanket come through the Ravelry radar, and I was like, oh my gosh, a random flower blanket. And then I click on it, go to her project page, And then I click on the pattern and I go to the pattern and it's like, this is not even the same blanket.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It just, I didn't realize because the pattern for the Persian tile blanket has a very regular, symmetrical, every block is, and they're not really squares. They're, what are they? Octagons. Every octagon is the same. And then between the octagons, you have little squares and every little square is the same. It's pretty, but it wasn't what I was looking for. If I had seen this in a pattern search, I never would have thought, oh, there's the blanket that I could use, the pattern I could use to make that random flower blanket. Mm-hmm. But this other one, because of the color choices she's made, doesn't it just look all random?
Yeah.
It doesn't look anything like the...
yeah, because
it doesn't
each
look
one is
anything
different.
Like
I mean, that's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. She has no notes on her project page, which is
she just has one photograph.
One photograph that I just happened to see she finished it on August 7th. So I guess on August 7th, I was sitting watching finished objects go by and saw hers, and I just loved it. So I went to Knitpicks because it is a 5-year-old. And I should tell people that Marsha's reaction was, a 5-year-old doesn't need this blanket. That's gorgeous. Right before we started recording again, and I showed her the pictures.
I know, it's beautiful. No, a 5-year-old will appreciate it. Faye will appreciate it.
I think she'll like it. And I'm not thinking of it as some heirloom blanket that she'll keep forever. I'm making it out of acrylic. Knitpicks. And while you were checking on the yard work at your house, Marsha, I went to the Knitpicks site because I wanted to make sure I was telling people what I was using. I'm using Knitpicks Brava worsted. Okay. And it's $2.49 for 100-gram skein. Oh. But if I had, which is a really good price, but if I had waited a week, I could have gotten each skein for $1.74. Ooh. So right now, if you're listening within a little while of when we record this, Knitpicks is having a sale on their Brava worsted. Okay. And what I did was I got a bunch of different colors that a 5-year-old girl would like: purples, pinks, oranges, greens, I tried to get different levels of saturation because I want to be able to recreate that effect. And then once I had gotten a few different skeins, then I saw they had a mini skein set on sale. So I bought the mini skein set. It was in reds and like warm colors. So I got the mini skein set. So I have little bits of some colors, and then I have bigger skeins of other colors. I think that I might have too much yarn. But whatever I have left over, I have a palette. Let's just say I have a palette of yarn, not a palette like I bought. A color palette of yarn.
Well, I'm looking at the pattern page, and there's no notes about how much you need yardage. Oh no, wait a minute, there is 39, basically 4,000. They have 4,000 to about 4,200 yards.
It's a lot of yarn, 4,000 yards.
But does the pattern tell you how much you need in each color or not?
No.
Yeah, really pretty. And I'm just looking at there's over 1,500 projects, and it's interesting how people have made each flower differently, like different combinations of colors, or they've done it all exactly the same, and how different they look.
And it looks like they have a note on the pattern page about some color substitution and kits. So maybe that the random colors one was a kit that someone did. But yeah, because here's another one. There's a couple of them that have it not symmetrical. I'm going to have to explore the project pages a little bit more because some of them I like better than others.
Well, and some of them, I wonder if it is a kit because some of them are exact same colors, or if they look very similar. Yeah. So it's got to be a kit.
There was a kit.
Oh yeah, here it is. I used Eastern Jewels kit.
So I'm going to have to be careful about my choices so that I get that random, not just that every block is different, because there are some of them where every block is different, but every block has the same kinds of colors. So the flowers all look the same size. And then there's others where the inner flower part is dark and the outer flower part is light. And then that makes it look like you have big and small flowers. So anyway, it will be fun. I'm really looking forward to getting started on that. I have not started yet. But I have a big box of yarn of all different colors, and it's going to be fun to select out, what am I going to use now and what am I going to use now? And I'll have to be a little bit careful, but I'm not going to be too precious about it. It is a blanket for a 5-year-old, after all.
Yeah, really pretty. Okay. Well, that'll be fun.
Yeah. So that's it with my projects.
So, I was quiet for a moment here now.
Oh, good. Marsha can hear herself think.
This has not been a good day to record. So anyway, let's talk. Should we talk about anything else? Oh, we have to talk about the. Okay, I'm so discombobulated. The winter weave along. Let's talk about that.
Okay, so I have not started a weaving project yet, but I have, I do have some ideas. But we're having our winter weave along. It started already November 1st, and it's going to go through March 31st. And we have a prize, a class donated by Erica at Weavolution. And there will be some other prizes as well as we go along. We'll let you know more about that. But, yeah, there's a lot of people participating already. We have a thread up. We've been talking about weaving, talking about our plans. Some people are already starting and finishing projects. So I'll have to get the finished object thread up here pretty soon because we have some overachievers in the group. and works in progress count. So that's also, some people might have had things already started. So.
Well, and I looked at kits to buy. There was webs, right? And
halcyon yarn.
Right. And then there's also, in this one, you put Jane Stafford Textiles has kits. And so I haven't looked at that yet. But I was looking at the kits. I'm going to buy one. And actually, I didn't think they were very expensive either. Some of them are... like for I was looking at placemats or dish towels, and they're not horribly like I thought they'd be a lot more expensive than they are. But
yeah, cotton yarn is relatively inexpensive compared with knitting yarn. Another place that has kits that you might really like is, and I do have this in the show notes this time, Gist Yarn. We had several listeners chime in with other places that they had found kits or supplies. And so I put those in this week's show notes. And I think I'll try to collect them on a page in our Ravelry website at some point. So they're all in one place. But Gist Yarn is a company that they have an interesting podcast, and then they have some really beautiful kits. And she has some gorgeous Lithuanian linen yarn that, oh my gosh, just gorgeous. But anyway, she has some nice kits too. And then one of our listeners posted a company called Blazing Shuttles that actually has pre-wound warps. And you might want to take a look at those too, Marsha, because then you don't even have to wind the warp.
Right.
And you don't have the warping board. I have an extra one, but I think you didn't have enough room to take it home the one time you were driving.
Right. And I think what we did when you were here before, we wound it on we just put the dining room chairs, separated them and wound them that way.
And that's good for a small project, but not, it's not as reliable. Once you start to get a lot wound around it, it's inconsistent. Okay. Whereas a warping board works a lot better. But anyway, so that's something for you to think about, the pre-wound warps.
Okay, I'll take a look at that then too. What I want to do, not in the podcast, but I think we'll just have a conversation and I'll show you the kits I'm thinking of. And then because it actually tells you what the requirements of your loom should be for these kits.
Yeah.
So, and I need to just check that out before I, go crazy buying something.
Right. Well, and the other thing, depending on how quickly you want to get started, is if you got a kit and you wanted me to wind the warp, I could wind the warp and then send it to you.
Oh, that's true. I could just have the kit delivered to you.
Kelly's warp winding service. But I thought that was interesting, the idea of a pre-wound warp. My first weaving project was a pre-wound warp that I bought at, I don't know if it's Stitches or if it was CNCH, our weaving conference that we have down here. But it was all like mohair and glitter and sparkle yarn. And it was very cool. I mean, it was not the kind of yarn that I would have ever bought enough skeins, because it was all different, all different yarns in this warp. I would never have bought the number of skeins of sparkly, mohair-y, fuzzy, boucle, yarn to make that warp, but it was already made. And so that was just really convenient. And of course, at that time, I had no concept of the cross, which helps you keep the warp threads all lined up in order. Right. I had no concept of that, so I didn't take advantage of that at all. It was kind of a mess, actually. But I did manage to get it warped, and I made my sister a wrap with it, and it was really beautiful. So it was convenient to have it all done, where I didn't have to do that winding, because I did not know what I was doing. And I didn't have the equipment. I knew nothing about winding a warp. I just thought, you just put all the strings on there and then you weave. Jump in with both feet.
That's not what you don't do? I thought that's... What?
Well, you do. I mean, weaving is pretty simple in that you have warp threads and you string them all onto the loom, but it's much easier to string them all onto the loom if they're all sorted. Yeah. And not just a skein of, I just treated it as like a skein of yarn that was cut on each end.
Yeah.
And so, you have a bunch of threads and you just, anyway, a pre-wound warp is kind of a cool idea.
Okay. So I'll look at those.
Yeah, we have links in the show notes. There's Amy McKnight is someone who has a blog and resources for rigid heddle looms. Mary, Knit Admin, had posted about her, and so I wanted to put that resource out there. Liz Gibson, I mentioned her before, I think, the yarn worker. She has rigid heddle weaving resources. So for people who have rigid heddle looms, and a lot of the newer weavers have rigid heddle looms. So we have a lot of links for you to check out in the show notes.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then we have some thank yous.
Yeah, a couple of thank yous. I was looking at the reviews this morning. I periodically will do that. I don't think I've done it in a while. So we had two that I think are new. I think they're both newer ones, from starting in July till now. Judy P64, she says, were the perfect background sound for my neighborhood walks. Their warm, giggly friendship makes me smile. So that was really nice to hear. And then C. Gribben says, we discuss all sorts of fiber-related projects as well as a glimpse into their long friendship. The laughter is contagious.
Those are both so sweet. Yeah, very nice.
Yeah. Thank you to both of you. We appreciate the reviews and the common theme of that, what my mother calls all that giggling.
Yeah, I know. Oh, well. So those are very nice. So do we have any other business?
Well, I'm going to just mention a new interest.
Oh, I see it here on the show note.
I'm cheating on Fiverr. So a friend at work came in one day and he was talking about his fountain pen that he had purchased. And he was all excited about this new pen that he had gotten. And this was the first that I knew that fountain pens were kind of a popular thing among, I'll say, young people. And so I said, I have one. I had one in my desk. I said, I have one that I bought when I was in college. And so I brought it out to show him, and it has long story I won't tell, but I had lost it in my office at some point. I didn't know where I put it. And then I found it again. But when I found it, I dropped it and broke the piece that screws in with the nib on it, the part you write with, is plastic, and it screwed into the metal part of the pen. And when I dropped it, the plastic part broke. So it has the threading has a piece missing. So I can't screw the nib on anymore. And I said, I have to get this repaired. And so he gave me the name of a place to go to get repairs. And he was, talking to me about his other pens that he has. So I got started listening to a podcast called The Pen Addict. Oh my gosh. Just like we have, a stash of yarn and equipment and could go on and on talking about, yarn and fiber adventures forever. These people can talk about pens forever. But the thing that is different about the pens is with yarn, you use it up.
Right.
And you make a project.
Right.
And of course, that project might still stay in your house, like you said.
Right.
You're not really getting rid of stuff, you're just changing its form.
Yeah.
But when you buy a pen, then you have a pen. And so they have collections. I mean, huge collections of pens. And there's only so many pens you can use in a week.
Right. Well, and because we don't even really write anything anymore either. That's the other thing too, is even a regular pen we don't use that much anymore. Right? Because we're not writing letters, we're emailing and anyway.
So anyway, it's been really interesting. And so I got out this old pen. This was back in the olden days when I had an office. Before the pandemic. So that pen is actually in my office, in my desk. And I'm going to go and get it. I'm going to get permission. You can get permission to go on campus and pick up some of your stuff. So I have some things I have to pick up, and I'm going to pick up that pen. But meanwhile, and last Christmas, I think it was, Robert bought me a fountain pen, a new one. And so I had been using that. And so in listening to this podcast, and Miguel had been talking to me about ink, but my pen just held cartridges. So, but now listening to this podcast is I could get a converter, and then I could not use the cartridges, but I could use ink from a bottle of ink, and I could have different colors because the cartridges don't come in very many colors. So anyway, I bought ink. I have a plan to go pick up my broken pen and see if I can actually send it in and get it repaired. And I bought another old pen. Oh. Well, old being the vintage of my one from college. So the one from college is a Schaefer Targa. And I coveted it. It was in the window of one of right on the very end of the main street in Walla Walla. As you first started walking down toward Merchants, the coffee shop, on that same side of the street, there was a stationery store, a office supply store. I don't know if you remember.
Was it the Book Nook? That place? No, it was not that place.
I think that was on the other side.
Okay.
I think the Book Nook was on the other side of the street. This was actually not a very interesting, office supply store.
Okay.
It wasn't someplace I ever went.
I know. Yes, I remember.
But the window had this pen in it. And I coveted this pen, and it was expensive. I mean, I think at the time it was $25, which at the time for me was a lot of money to pay for a pen. Right. So I looked at it for months and drooled over it and went in and tried it and, talked with them about it. And anyway, finally I ended up buying it. So this is the one that I have in my desk at work. Mm-hmm. So then after listening to this podcast, I thought, I'm going to look and see if any vintage pen sellers have, something like that. So I went on and I found a company called Peyton Street Pens, mm-hmm. and they had the Targa silver, the chrome one, mine is matte black. And they had the chrome one that I remembered from that same, they had several of them, but I ended up buying the one that was the 1980, early 80s. It arrives and I find out that Peyton Street Pens is actually in Santa Cruz.
Oh.
It's an online store, so I didn't even think about where they located.
Right.
And come to find out they're located in Santa Cruz. And in addition to the pen, she sent me a Schaefer pencil, mechanical pencil.
Oh.
And a little, a stick eraser. Mm-hmm. It's like you click it and the eraser.
Oh, right, yeah.
Comes out.
I love those.
Yeah. So anyway, it was really cool. Great buying experience. It was not horribly expensive. The pen was not horribly expensive. I don't know enough about it to spend a lot of money. When I saw the price of it, I thought, for that price, I'm going to get this. So now I have another one of those same pens that I remembered, so fondly from college. So, and I bought ink. I told you that I bought ink. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I filled my one pen, and I need to fill my other pen, and now I need to get notebooks.
Well, I'm kind of interested because I found both my mother and father's pens, fountain pens. So they're from the, well, I don't know, at least the 40s, maybe earlier. Uh-huh. And my mother's is green, and it has a gold band, where the cap, mm-hmm. And it's engraved.
And it's called the furniture of the pen. All the little metal parts on it it's a whole other world.
A whole other language too, right? And
yeah. So anyway, that's very cool.
Yeah. I'll have to...
You'll have to send me a picture.
Yeah, I should just send you them because I'm never going to use them, right? Well, her pen is so old because the initials, her maiden name was Phyllis Ann McMaster. And so the initials are Pam, yeah. P-A-M.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so she had it before she was married. Probably in college, I bet. It's probably...
Oh, wow. That's really cool, Marsha.
It's probably, I bet, how it used to be which I always thought was so silly when kids would graduate from high school. Their graduation gift was a dictionary and a thesaurus. Well, why didn't they have those before they graduated? They needed them, didn't they, But anyway, right. I know a lot of times graduation gifts would be a watch or I think a pen. And that's probably why I bet she probably got that as a graduation gift, right? Mm-hmm. From high school, probably.
Oh, nice.
So
very cool.
Yeah. Okay, you can't have it now. It's just sitting in the basement. It's actually sitting on all my stuff I'm sorting through. They're both sitting there. So anyway,
very cool.
Oh, that's exciting. Yeah, you'll have to put a link to the shop. Okay. Put a link in there because people might start a new thing.
Yeah. Well, and I'll put a link to the pen podcast. Yeah. And they have a blog too. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's reviews of ink, and it's a whole. I'm not going to say I'm not going down that path because that's the kiss of death to say that, but I can't imagine myself going full blown down that path.
Yeah.
But I have had fountain pens for a while, had a fountain pen that I used relatively consistently since college. So off and on,
so because Robert, you said Robert bought you a new one. What do you use the fountain pen for now? Do you use it for grading papers or journaling?
I have a notebook that I take to meetings, and the one that I had before, I would use it off and on, and it'd be just sitting on my desk, and then so whatever I needed to write down, I would write down my list for the day, or if I was, working out something that I wanted to, a project that I wanted to give to my students and kind of, working it out on paper before I put it together, take notes at meetings, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So the one Robert got me, he bought me a notebook too. So last Christmas I got a leather binding, that you stick a notebook inside of. And then he bought me the pen, and the pen goes into there's like a little elastic that the pen stays in. So that's what, I just take that to meetings, and I still take it to meetings, but I don't take it anywhere.
Yeah.
I use it when I'm in it.
Yeah.
Let me just say it that way.
Yeah. Interesting.
So.
All right.
So yeah, I have a new interest.
I say another rabbit hole.
Yes, another rabbit hole. Exactly. So anyway, yeah, I would love to see pictures of those pens that you have.
I'll send them to you.
And anytime you want to send them to me, that would be just fine.
Anyway, all right.
Or I'll send you some ink, and then you can get started down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. All right. Well, is that everything to talk about?
That's it.
Okay. All right. Well, we will talk in 2 weeks.
All right.
Alrighty. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. To subscribe to the podcast, visit 2usfiberadventures.com.
Join us on our adventures on Ravelry and Instagram. I am Better in Motion, and Kelly is 100 Projects.
Until next time, we're the 2Us.
Doing our part for World Fleece.